Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and if this is your first time here, you're welcome to Start by Taiwo. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for staying with us. So in this video, I'll be teaching on how to make this beautiful A-cord dress. If this is what you like, do well to like, subscribe, and also do well to drop a beautiful comment. Let's get started. For this dress, you'll be needing about 3 yards of Ankara fabrics, and you'll also be needing a black fabric which you'll be using for the combination, and for that you'll be needing about half yard, and then your other basic sewing tools. So right here I have my fabric on fold, and for the width I used my highest measurement, which is my hip round, divided by 4, and I added 3 extra inches for the ease allowance. So after that, I'm going to go ahead to mark out my vertical measurement, and the vertical measurement I'm working with will be my chest line, which I'm going ahead to mark out now. I'm going to go ahead to mark this round, and the next measurement will be my bust point. And after my bust point, what I'm just going to go ahead to do next is to mark out my half length. And after marking my half length, I also want to go ahead to also mark out my hip line and also the full length of my dress. So if you notice, while marking out, I'm marking from the start of where this Ankara label, the black part, because I do not want it showing in my fabric. So for this measurement which I called, which is my chest line, my bust point, my half length, my hip line, and my full length, I'm just going to go ahead to mark them out. And also, one thing you should also notice that this part of the fabric that we're trying to cut out is for the back. So when we are done cutting the back, because of what we have in the front, we're going to use the back to cut out the front. So do well to go ahead and mark out your measurement, your vertical measurement, and go ahead to connect it. So right now I'm done with that, and next thing I just want to do is to mark out my neck width. And after marking my neck width, I also go ahead to mark out my shoulder length and go ahead to mark it down on my chest line. And I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches, connect with my pattern ruler, and also go ahead to connect these lines together. So after which I want to go ahead to come down from my neck width by 1 inches, and also go ahead to use your pattern ruler to connect it. So for the neck width, because of what we have in the collar, for the back, for the neck depth, I will say you could come down by 1.5 inches, also 1 inches. So the next thing I want to do now is to get the midpoint here, come in by half inches, and also go ahead to connect it. Then after doing this, I want to go ahead to mark out my bust round divided by 4, and I'm going to add our ease allowance of 2.5 inches. You could do 2.5 or 3 inches, and go ahead to mark it out. And also come also to the waistline, and for my waistline I'm dividing my waist round divided by 4. Instead of adding 2.5 inches, I added 2 inches for the waist part, but you could also go ahead and maintain the 2.5 inches allowance we are adding. And the reason why we're adding this allowance is because it's not a fitted dress. So for my hip line, I'm also going to come ahead to mark out my hip round divided by 4, and I'm also going to go ahead to add our ease allowance. So I'll be coming up on my hip line by 1 inch, and I'll also be going down by 1 inches. And now this 1 inch that I came up by, I'm going to go ahead to connect from my half length to it, and also from that 1 inches down there I also want to go ahead mark out my hip round. And you want to repeat whatever you have down here, but I moved 1 inches from mine. You could go ahead to repeat what you have or go ahead to maintain that. So I also want to go ahead to connect this line down to the 1 inches I have. And the reason why I did this is because I do not want my hip part, the hip looking bulgy, so I just wanted it to fit well. So at this point I'll say we are done with the back, and this is what we have. So what you want to do now is to go ahead to cut so that we can proceed with the front. So right here what I have now is my back that I have gone ahead to cut out. So the first thing I want to do, from the front midpoint, I'm going to go ahead to mark out 2.5 inches round, and this 2.5 inches is for the front opening. So after marking this round, what I want to do is that I want to go ahead to fold it in and use this 2.5 to cut out my front. So right here I'm done marking out, so I'm just going to go ahead, fold it in, and place it on my front fabric, the part where I'm going to be cutting the front fabric, on fold, and go ahead to cut it out. And that is how we're going to go about cutting the front. So what I'm doing right now, I've gone ahead to drop it back, and I'm going to go ahead to get my fabric to have it unfold and go ahead to cut out for my front. So you might not want to go ahead to fold it as much as you did for the back, because we've gone ahead to fold about 2.5 inches in. So this is my back. So I don't know if you were able to see it well. I'm gonna here to place it on the front. And just as we have it as it is here, place it well. If you know if yours is not going to be stable, you can use an office pin to hold it down. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out just what we have. So right here, I'm done cutting out our front just as I instructed. And what I'm doing right now, I'm going ahead to divide this front into two parts. And at this point, we say we are done cutting out the front. So after this part, what we want to do now, I'm just going to go ahead to show you what our front looks like after cutting it out. So this is what our front looks like. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, place the back pattern on it. I'm going to go ahead to place the back piece on the front. And what the first process we're going to do is going to go ahead to sew our shoulder. We're going to go ahead to sew our shoulder length by 1/2 inches in on both sides. So I'm just going to go to my sewing machine, sew for my shoulder by 1/2 inches on both sides. And so right now, I want to go ahead to measure my arm cycle round. So I want to use this measurement to cut out my sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead to get my fabric that I'll be using to cut out my sleeve and have it unfold. So for the sleeve, which is a bell sleeve or a funnel hand, I don't know which you call it, you go ahead to have your fabric unfold and then fold it as wide as you want your sleeve to be. For me, I'll be going with 13 inches for my sleeve width, but you could go more or you could go less. It depends on personal preference. So I've gone ahead to measure out my width, and after measuring my width, which I said I was going with 13 inches, I also want to go ahead to mark out my sleeve length. So the sleeve length, you might want yours to be short or you might want yours to come over your sleeve, over your wrist. It depends on how, or you want yours to cover your hand. It depends on how you want it. So if anyhow you want yours, just go ahead, measure the length, and do not forget to also add 2 inches for sewing allowance. So right here, what I'm going to go and mark out is what I have, what are my arm cycle, and I minus 1.5 inches, and also went ahead to come down by 5 inches. So what I just want to do now is to go ahead and connect this together. So after connecting this together, I want to go ahead to measure my exact arm cycle, what I have, and I also go ahead to add 1 extra inches to it. And from my sleeve hem, I want to measure the width I'm working with. And what you do next is to get your pattern ruler and connect it. So this is what I'm going to, this is how I went about for my sleeve. So for this pattern ruler, I did not see my straight ruler, so I wanted to go with this, but I ended up using my hand. So after this, now what I'm just going to do now, I'll go ahead to cut this out, and I'm going to repeat this same process for the second sleeve, and that is how you're going to go ahead to cut out your sleeve. Okay, so right now I'm going to come to my fabric, and pardon me, I forgot to state earlier that when sewing your shoulder, you should try to sew from your shoulder down to the neck. So if you do like that, you notice that there are 1/2 inches left, because what we left out was 2.5 inches, and our neck width was 1/2 inches. Our neck width was 3 inches. So I just want to go ahead to cut out the excess 1/2 inches that I have here. So I just want to go ahead to cut that out just as you see me do. So if you take note, I didn't cut it to the down, I just slanted while cutting. So right now, the next thing I would want to do now, I want to go ahead to measure this round for the black, this thing that we're going to be using in the middle, black fabric we're going to be using in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead to measure it round and know what I'm going to, know the length I'm going to cut out for that part. So before cutting the midpoint, the black part, we want to join the sides, and to join the sides, I will have to sew my belt to it because I'll be adding a belt to it. So for my belt, I have about 45 inches for the length and I have about 4 inches for the width. So I'll go ahead to fold just as you see and go ahead to sew the top and also go ahead to sew the sides. And I'm going to repeat the same process for both. And after which I'm going to show you what I have. So after that, right here, I've done that. And what I would just want to do now is to turn over. So you could get whatever tool you're going to use to turn over. So while sewing, I did not want the black part to show, so I came down and that was why I went ahead to cut that out. So right here, I'm going ahead to turn over and I'm going to repeat the same process for both belts and I'm going to go ahead to give it a good press and come back and join to my dress. So right here, I've gone ahead to iron and this is what my belt looks like. So I would just want to go ahead now to sew. So from your dress, you might want to measure down to 15 or 16 inches where the belt could fit better. So before that, this black part, I do not want it showing in my dressing. So that was why I went ahead to cut it out. And I'm going to go ahead now to get my dress and place where I want. So while placing, you might want to get your office pin here to hold it down so that you don't miss the point where you place your belt. So right now, I'm going to go ahead to measure down to where I want my belt to be. And I'm going to be measuring 16 inches down and I've gone ahead to mark with my chalk. I'll do the same process for the other part and go ahead to sew the belt to my dress. So right here, I've done that. And after sewing this belt, I'm going to show you what it looks like after sewing. So after sewing, the next thing you want to do is to join the sides. So this is what my belt looks like on the side. So before joining to the sides, I would just want to go ahead to get my sleeves to sew to it before joining to the sides. So I'll go ahead and get my sleeve. And right here, this is my sleeve. So the first thing I would just want to do now is to get the midpoint of my sleeve and go ahead to sew to my dress. So before that also you also want to go ahead to hem your sleeve. So I've gotten the midpoint of my sleeve and I'm going to go ahead to notch and I'll repeat the same process for both. So I'll go ahead and sew my sleeve. So that's the reason why I'm sewing my sleeve first is so that while I'm joining, I'm going to join both the sleeve and the dress together. So you go ahead, sew to your sleeve, and after sewing your sleeve, you want to go ahead to join everything together with the sleeve. So after this now, we'll be going to the midpoint of this dress. So right here, this is my black piece and I've gone ahead to cut out the length we have, and also for the width, I have my fabric on fold, and for the width I have 4 inches, and meaning when you open the width, what we have is going to be 8 inches. So if you notice, I also went ahead to press round so that I can take note of my midpoints while trying to sew. So this is what it looks like, and the next thing we want to go ahead to do now is to measure from the top down, and I'm going to go ahead to mark out 12 inches for my neck. So it depends on how deep you want your neck to be. If you want yours to come down more, you could go ahead to mark more than 12 inches. Or if you want yours to come up, you could also work with that. So the next thing after marking this neck, you want to go ahead now to turn it over. So I'm going to go ahead, turn over to the wrong side of the fabric, just as you see me do. And after turning over, what I just want to do also, I just want to go ahead again to mark out my 12 inches for my neck depth. So you just want to go ahead also to mark out your neck depth, the neck depth you'll be working with. I've gone ahead already to press this, so I have the midpoint, and from this neck depth I'm going to go ahead to sew on the midpoints down. So I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine right now. And I also want to say before that, you might also want to go ahead to gum your clothes gum to it so that it can be stable a bit, because mine, after sewing, I noticed it was not as stable as it was not looking firm as I had wanted it to be. So you might also want to go ahead to use your cloth gum or a paper stay. So right here, I'm done sewing just as I had said we should do, and this is what it looks like. So what I would just want to do now is that I want to go ahead to open this and show you what it looks like. So after opening, you also want to go ahead to press so that you can have a clean look. So this is what it looks like, and you want to go ahead to sew next now to the fabric. And before doing that, don't forget you have to also press. So before that, I want to get the midpoint of this neck part and also go ahead to get my fabric and place it on it and go ahead to sew around. So I just want to go ahead to show you how you want to place it. So first and foremost, I just want to get ahead to get the midpoint of my fabric and also get this midpoint here. Place it. You might want to use your office pen to hold it down. So you go ahead to place it and just hold it down till you sew to the end, and you're going to repeat this round, and this is the end. This is the end of this dress. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and also do not forget to drop a beautiful comment. And if you have any question, you can also drop in the comment section and I'll be ready to answer you. Thank you for watching.